Let us discuss about rotation about arbitrary axis. So in my previous video we had discussed about the general 3D rotations or the general rotations about axis. Now we will discuss about rotation about an arbitrary axis. Let us consider this diagram. Let's see here how the rotation is performed. You can see here there is a line segment, or you can call it as, say, the 2 points, okay, a line which has a portion of it, and that portion of the line you call it as a line segment, and you have the 2 end points for that line segment, P1, P2. This is the line segment which I am supposed to now rotate about z-axis. Say, how to rotate this line about z-axis? Can you rotate there itself in that original position? I cannot do that, right? So the next step would be translate that particular line to origin. So you can see here the next step would be translation of the line segment to the origin. So initially it was there here, this was the original position. You cannot rotate this line segment here because I want to rotate this line about z-axis. So in order to rotate it about z-axis, first you have to translate the line segment to the origin. So once you translate the object or the line segment to the origin, now what you can do here, directly again at this origin position, I cannot rotate the line segment about z-axis. You know, now here the line segment is not at all aligned along z-axis. So to make this line segment align along z-axis, I have to slightly orient this line segment. So you can just see here, I will just orient the particular, or in other words, I will rotate this particular line segment along z-axis. You can now see here what is rotated there. This point is fixed, P1 dash is fixed. What is that fixed point? You call it as an origin. But this point P2 dash, what you have, the other portion of the other end of the line segment, you are rotating along z-axis, or you orient that in such a way that the line segment aligns along z-axis. You can see here the point P1 dash is as it is, but this point P2 dash, what you had, you have now rotated it in such a way that this P2 dash is aligned along z-axis. Now this line segment is aligned along z-axis. But now, did we perform the rotation? We have to rotate now the object along z-axis, right? Now, where is our object? You cannot see the object, right? So you can assume any object, say a triangle or something, which you have to now orient along z-axis. Say there is an object over here, say a triangle, which you had to orient about this line segment, but about which axis? About z-axis. So this object directly you cannot align along z-axis or orient along z-axis. So you are asked to orient the object about this line, but and the axis is z-axis, but this line is not at all aligned to z-axis. That is why we got this line segment to the origin first, and then from the origin we first oriented or aligned that line segment along z-axis, and now here we have our object, and now here we have our object which we can rotate along z-axis about this line segment, and along z-axis I can rotate it. Okay, so now you can rotate. And now what am I supposed to do next? After performing the rotation of an object along z-axis, can I leave my object here itself? No, I cannot do that. I have to get back the object to its original position. So what do? Again, I will undo the things whatever I had done earlier. So whatever you had done, what is that you had done? You had aligned the line segment along z-axis. So that alignment let us undo now. So here rotate the axis to its original orientation. That means earlier your line segment was aligned. That means P2 double dash was here along z-axis. Now you align it back to its original position. See, P1 dash is as it is still at the origin. Only thing what you have done is the alignment you have undone. So P2 dash you have moved back to the original position, but still this is not our original position. So what am I supposed to do? You have to now translate it back to the original position. So earlier I had aligned, so this I have undone here, and now what am I supposed to do after undoing this alignment? See, you can see both are same to same. Yes, after undoing, now I have to get back to the original position. So how to get back to the original position? So translation back, you can say you have to now do the translation, undo the translation which you had done earlier. So translate this line segment back to its original position. So this is the last step. So here you can see how an object can be oriented about a desired axis, and the desired axis here is z-axis. So about a given line segment, if you are asked to orient the object along z-axis, you have to carry out 5 steps. So the step 1 is, you can just see here 5 steps. The first step would be translate the object so that rotation axis passes through the origin. So the object should be translated, or there our object was the line segment which has to be translated to the origin. So after translating it to the origin, step 2 was orient or rotate the object so that axis of rotation aligns or coincides with one of the coordinate axis, and that one of the coordinate axis was z-axis. So we oriented the object was line segment along z-axis so that the line segment aligns along z-axis. Now after performing these 2 steps, third steps would be the actual rotation. So about an angle theta. Now here to perform the rotation you require an angle theta. By this desired angle theta along the axis z-axis, you perform the rotation here. This is your actual rotation. Now once your object is rotated about an angle theta and by an angle axis z-axis, what you can do now, the previous 2 steps can be undone. So start undoing that is apply reverse rotation. So reverse rotation is whatever you had done this in the step 2, you are undoing that. So perform reverse rotation, that is rotation axis back to its original orientation. So here after this 4th step you can find out that this 2nd step is undone. So reverse rotation you have applied, but still your line is still at origin. So first step is not yet undone. So in order to undo this first step, you have to apply reverse translation or inverse translation. So inverse translation is bring the oriented object, or you can say bring back the object that you had already oriented in 3rd step. This time remember, oriented object you are translating back. So this oriented object you are, or rotated object you are translating back to its original position. So these are the 5 steps you have to carry out in order to rotate the object about arbitrary axis. So remember all these 5 steps. This is very important procedure, rotation about an arbitrary axis. Let's take an example here to analyze it little bit more. So let us write the matrices also here, the corresponding matrices and the corresponding transformation, composite transformation matrices to perform these 5 steps. You can now see here the rotation vector, how the rotation vector is computed. Suppose if this is my axis, x-axis, and this is y-axis, and this is z-axis. Okay, so here I have a vector, say, and say the vector is this one, v. Okay, vector, whenever I say, it actually specifies, it has both scalar and direction. So magnitude and direction it has, right? So let me take the magnitude of this vector as d, and or else let me take the magnitude of this vector as a unit vector. So the magnitude is equal to 1. And the direction of this rotation, so what is this direction of this rotation, or you can say the vector component. Whenever I say vector, vector has components. What is the component? It has x component, given by alpha x, and this vector has a y component given by alpha y, and also it has a z component given by alpha z. So this alpha x, alpha y, alpha z, I can write it something like this. So this vector v, I can call it as a line segment made up of two endpoints, say P1 and P2. P1 and P2 are the two endpoints of this line segment. So this vector can be written as V is equal to P2 minus P1. So the 2 points, endpoints are P2 and P1. So P2 minus P1 is nothing but our vector. So what is point P1? It is given by, say, the coordinates x1, y1 and z1. What about the point P2? It is made up of the components. Again, it is a 3D point. So it is given by x2, y2 and z2. So whenever I subtract these 2 points, I have to subtract the corresponding coordinates also. So x2 minus x1 is the x coordinates of P2, P1. Then y2 minus y1 is the y coordinates of P1, P2. Then z2 minus z1 is the z coordinates of the 2 points P1, P2. So this is how I can represent the vector in terms of the two endpoints. Now the unit rotation axis vector u is. So what is this vector u here? So this rotation axis vector. So a vector which about which I am rotating the object. So the rotation, you can say here, if I am considering this rotation vector, even this vector v is a rotation vector. Now I am considering a new vector u whose magnitude is unit. What is that? It is equal to 1. So this is a special vector. Let me take it as a separate vector. Say this is a vector u whose magnitude is just 1. Okay, so their components, that is, what is the components of the vector? When I say, it is the x component of the vector u, y component of the vector u and z component of the vector u. So the three components of this vector u is given by a, b and c. So what are these? A is a component along x, b is a component along y and c is a component along z. So these are the three components of the vector u, and the magnitude of the vector u is equal to 1. Okay, so these, you can also call these components as direction cosines for the rotation axis. Okay, so what is this vector u now? I can represent this vector u now in terms of this vector v. So what is that? It is v divided by magnitude of the vector v. So when I say v, it is the scalar components of vector a. Scalar components of vector v, I can represent. What is the scalar component of vector v? It is component of the vector along x, component of vector along y axis and the component of vector along z axis. It's given by a, b, c. So I'm representing this vector u in terms of vector v. So my vector v u is the one whose magnitude is equal to 1. Okay, the vector v is the one, you can say it is this vector whose magnitude in general you can take it as d. Okay, and then this vector v, in general, basics of vector I have told here. What is a vector v, how a vector can be represented. Now if I take a vector whose magnitude or whose length is equal to 1, I can represent it in this way. So I can say the x component, y component, z component divided by magnitude of v. What is this vector magnitude? Since it's a unit vector, I take the magnitude as 1. Okay, so this is a general representation of a vector. Now I can take this x component of the vector a can be defined as a is equal to, what is x component means? The line segment. This vector is nothing but a line segment, right? If I write it in terms of 2 point, so x2 minus x1 divided by the magnitude of vector v. So this is nothing but the component, the scalar component of the vector u along x-axis. The scalar component of vector u along y-axis is given by, in terms of the two coordinates, y2 minus y1 divided by magnitude of v, and c is given by z2 minus z1 divided by v. Okay, so if I consider any vector, the vector has a magnitude and a direction. So when I say magnitude, you can call it as a length of the vector. Okay, and then every vector has its own the scalar components, right? So what are the scalar components of the vector? It's a component along x, which is here given by a, it has a component along y which is given by b, and it has a component along z axis which is given by c. So that scalar component can be defined in this way in terms of 2 points, x2 minus x1 divided by v, length of the magnitude of the vector, b is equal to this way. Okay, so these are the basics of the vector. Now as we already know from our 5 steps, what is actually our first step? The first step, before I perform the actual rotation, first step would be translation of the object to the origin. So how do I perform the translation of object to the origin? So translation of object is nothing but translating, passing the all the coordinates of the object to the origin. So in order to do that, I need to know what is a translation matrix. See, try to recall the figure there, how to translate the line segment to the origin. So this was our original position of the line segment. I had translated it to origin. So how do I translate? See, both the endpoints should be obtained to the origin, right? Or you can say the line segment was somewhat like this, right? So one of the point was moved to origin, where the other point was somewhere in non-origin position. So here, in order to do this, you have to perform reverse rotation. So what is that? Suppose this point, if this point was something like 5, 0. Suppose if this point was 5, 0. What is 5, 0? X component of this point is 5, whereas y is 0 here. Since the point is on x axis, x coordinate is 5 and the corresponding y coordinate is 0. So if I want to get this point to origin, how do I do that? 5 minus 5. So the translation factor along x axis is minus 5. So subtract 5 from 5 so that you get that point to origin, and that is given by 0, 0. Okay, so what is it now you are trying to do? You get this object to the origin, and how do I get this point to origin? By performing reverse translation. What is reverse translation? You just subtract the coordinates from itself. So if the coordinate is given by 5, 0, subtract this 5, 0 from minus 5. So this is a translation factor along x axis. So you can write the matrix in this way: minus x1, if this is translation along x axis, this is a reverse translation factor along y axis, minus y1, reverse translation factor along z axis, minus z1. And this fourth row, anyways, you know, this is a homogeneous coordinate system what we are representing. So the last row indicates the origin. Okay, so this is a translation matrix, and this is nothing but the matrix corresponding to our first step. So let's see now the next step. After performing translation, what to do next? So our objective here is to rotate the object along z axis. Aim is to rotate the object along z axis. But one point you have to remember, we cannot directly rotate the object along z axis. So if at all I want to rotate along z axis, first you have to align the object along x, then you have to align, remember when I say align, it is orient or rotate the object along y, and then you rotate or align the object along z axis. So this should be done in sequence. Okay, so rotate along x, rotate along y, and then rotate along z axis. But since we have done these two only for a reason that, what is the reason? That is, my desired axis of rotation is z axis. Only for achieving this, I had to carry out the x rotation and y rotation. But otherwise this was unnecessary. So now what can I do? After performing the actual rotation, I can undo the previous rotations by carrying out inverse rotation. So inverse rotation I can perform along y, then finally I can perform inverse rotation along x. So this is what I'm supposed to do there. Okay, so carry out the rotation along x, carry out the rotation along y, and then perform the actual rotation. Then what you can do, since the first two rotations are not necessary, I can undo that. But how? What is the undoing order? What was the last rotation that you had carried out along y? Undo that first. okay, by performing inverse rotation, and then the inverse rotation along x. So this is how you're supposed to do it, okay. In this order you carry out the rotations. Now how do I achieve this rotation along x-axis? So first step is, you can see here a diagram where the rotation is carried out. The rotation of a vector is carried out. So this is a rotation, this is a vector u which you are supposed to rotate along x-axis. But how do you rotate along x-axis? Remember, whenever you rotate the object along x-axis, you can say that the xz plane is accomplished by rotating u. That means the projection of u in the yz plane should be considered, okay, rather than taking this the rotation of vector along the actual x-axis. What you can do, you can consider a projection of this vector, and that projection is shown over here horizontally. See, this is a projection of u. You can consider this as a kind of shadow of the actual vector u, and that is represented by u dash, and that shadow vector is now represented on the yz plane. You can imagine this is a wall and this is the actual vector which is in front of the wall, and this wall, say it is a mirror kind of surface, okay. So the shadow, or the impression, or the you can say the image of this particular vector is observed on the wall or on the mirror. Now this is represented by u dash, and what is this plane? It's opposite to xy plane. What is that plane? It is yz. So if at all you want to carry out the rotation along x-axis, you have to calculate the components of rotation in the yz plane. So for x-axis you have to calculate the components in a yz plane, the opposite plane, okay. Now how to calculate the components of this in the yz plane? So for doing that, the vector u dash you have to consider, and now simply draw a perpendicular projection over the z-axis. This perpendicular projection over the z-axis here is given this way, and this is the angle of rotation which you have to actually consider. The angle of rotation along z, and what is that? Given by alpha. And consider the magnitude of this vector u dash as, say, some d, okay. And now when I say the vector has its components, scalar components, right? A vector scalar components, it has the component along x, it has a scalar component along y, and finally it has a scalar component along z. Here let me consider the scalar component of this vector u along x as a, along y as b, and finally along z as c. These are the three components, scalar components of this vector u dash. So what do I do? Now the x component here I don't have to consider. Why? Because it is a yz plane, right? Let me consider the y component. So this is a y component of this vector which is given by actually b along y axis, okay, along y axis, perpendicular, this one. But I have drawn a projection, right, which is parallel to this y-axis. So can I also consider the magnitude, the component which is parallel to y-axis also as b? This I can consider as b because this projection is parallel to y-axis. Now, what is a component along z-axis? The component of the vector along z-axis is given by c. Right? So now, can I write alpha is an angle? Can I represent this as a right angle triangle? So this is a right angle triangle. You can see this is a 90 degree. This opposite side is a hypotenuse. This is a you can say it is a b, length is b, c is length of z. This is hypotenuse. Can I write now cos alpha? So what is cos alpha? Cos alpha is given by adjacent side by hypotenuse. What is adjacent side? Adjacent side is here, and this is an angle alpha. So cosine of alpha is given by adjacent side, that is c divided by d. So which is given by c divided by d. So what is sine of alpha? Sine of alpha is given by opposite side by hypotenuse. So what is opposite side by hypotenuse? Opposite side here is given by this, opposite of this angle, and that is equal to b divided by d. So why am I calculating cosine and sine? Because finally I am going to write the rotation matrix Rx, wherein all the terms there inside the matrix is cosine and sine. So instead of directly taking all these values A, B, C components, I'll calculate cosine of alpha and sine of alpha so that I can substitute these values in my rotation matrix. So this is how you have to calculate the rotation matrix. So first I have performed the rotation along x-axis. So what is the next step? Calculate the rotation along y-axis or carry out the rotation along y-axis. Now let's see what is a rotation matrix with respect to x-axis. Okay, so before I do that, you can see cosine of alpha is given by C by D, and as you already know, my right angle triangle was something like this with the D and the component C here and the component B here. You can as per the Pythagoras theorem, it is D square is equal to B square plus C square. So D is equal to square root of B square plus C square you can consider. And then this is actually the standard formula for cosine of alpha, dot product divided by magnitude. And this is two vectors what you have. uz is given by after alignment, u dash is the actual vector, cross product of these two vectors is given in terms of sign. You can see here, this way you can write, and finally what is that sine of alpha? It is given by b by d. You can now see my rotation matrix that I have got, Rx of alpha. What is that? The first row indicates it is the x-axis, and the second row here you can see cosine of alpha is C by D, sine of alpha is minus B by D. Again here this is sine of alpha and cosine of alpha. So substitute all the values here in the rotation matrix. Okay, so this is how you calculate Rx of alpha. Now how do I calculate Ry of alpha? So for doing that, again now you have to first represent the vector in a particular plane. So to carry out the rotation along y-axis, which particular axis you are going to consider? So it's the opposite of that. It is xz plane you have to consider where the rotation should be carried out. So what is the rotation we have? The rotation here we have, the rotation we have to carry out here along y-axis. So opposite plane of that is xz plane. So in the xz plane you consider the vector or the shadow of the vector. Which vector? U. So now the shadow is u double dash I'll represent. So the component of that would be, now you can see here, I'll just represent this here in the form of a right angle triangle, and the component here something like this. Here it is. Okay, this is x component and this is a z component. So this is a xz plane, and here comes my vector, and the length of the vector I can take it as d. Okay, and let me just draw a perpendicular projection here this way for z axis. So perpendicular projection when I am drawing, you can see here this becomes a 90 degree. And what is the angle of rotation along y-axis that I am representing? See, something like this. The angle of rotation is in anti-clockwise direction. This is the angle of rotation alpha. So what is the length of the vector here? That is a z component of the vector. Actually the z component of the vector here is given by, I can consider here z component as 1, because this is a unit length vector I can imagine here. See, the unit length vector I'll imagine. And what is this perpendicular projection? Since it is parallel to x-axis, let me take the component as x component, and I know what is x component of the vector. It is given by a. X component of the vector is given by a. The length of this vector is d, and this vector here I am taking it as 1, unit length. Now can I consider this as a right angle triangle? So what is the adjacent side? Adjacent side here is given by, see, cosine of alpha. So cosine of alpha, you can take it as adjacent side by hypotenuse. Okay, so what is the adjacent side by hypotenuse? You can give it as d. Okay, and then sine of alpha. So what is sine of alpha? Opposite side by hypotenuse, and that you can give it as a divided by d. Okay, so d and a divided by d. So cosine of angle beta. Okay, so and then one more thing, important thing over here is, since this is the rotation along y-axis, you can see here, since it is, see, the angle comes in this anti-clockwise direction. So when it comes to x-axis, I am not considering the positive x-axis, I am considering the negative x-axis. So here the component, x component of vector becomes minus a. So it becomes negative, since I am considering this negative x-axis. Along negative x-axis I am considering this rotation, right? So that is why minus a by d. Cos alpha is just d divided by 1 whereas sine alpha is given by minus a divided by d. Okay, so these two values once I am computing, I can now substitute in my matrix. Okay, what is the matrix I have? Ry of alpha.
Let us discuss now how the matrix can be written, the rotation matrix. We have already derived the values for cosine of angle beta and sine of angle beta. So remember, this is the rotation matrix that we are writing for rotation along y axis. So the angle of rotation is given by angle beta, and the axis of rotation is nothing but y axis, and the plane that we are using for performing rotation is xz plane. So here cosine of angle beta and sine of angle beta we have already calculated. So cosine of angle beta is given by d divided by 1, but whereas sine of angle beta is given by minus a. So here we can substitute these values here in the matrix. So this matrix is shown over here. Remember, this is a matrix where the second row is 0 1 0 0, which indicates that it's a rotation along y axis. So you have to substitute all the other values for cosine of angle beta and sine of angle beta. Okay, so you can just substitute these values. You can now finally end up with the rotation about z-axis. So we know what is the angle of rotation that we have to perform along z-axis, that is angle theta. Remember, the rotation along x-axis is done by an angle alpha. Rotation along y-axis is done by an angle beta, whereas the rotation about an angle z is performed by an angle theta there. So you can see this rotation matrix is as usual along the axis z axis, cos theta minus sin theta 0 0, sin theta cos theta 0 0, and remaining third row is taken as 0 0 1, and then final row is 0 0 0 1. So this is a rotation of object along z axis. Now you can club all the rotation matrices. Since we are performing the rotation, see, we are done with all the steps now. Step 1 was translation that we had to perform. Remember that translation, whatever we had performed, is to get the object to the origin. So earlier the object was in the original position. You have to get it to the origin. So if this is axis, object was say somewhere over here, I want to get it to the origin. So you have to actually perform a reverse translation. So what is reverse translation? You have to subtract the translation factors from the original position. You call that as reverse translation. So since this is a post multiplication, you write the composite matrix in this form. So start from right to left always. So first step was performing translation, and after that we had to align the object along axis. So which is the angle of rotation? It is theta. What is the axis of rotation? It is about z axis. We had to rotate the object, but directly we cannot rotate object along z axis. So first we have to align the object along x axis. After aligning along x-axis, alignment is nothing but rotate the object along x-axis by an angle alpha. After that, rotate the object along y-axis by an angle beta, and finally rotate the object along the z-axis. So final rotation is rotation about z-axis. But remember, whenever you are performing first Rx of alpha, that is along x-axis rotation, Ry of beta, that is rotation along y-axis, and then you perform rotation along z-axis by an angle theta. So once you're done with the rotation of along z-axis, now you have to undo these two rotations which you had already carried out. But undoing order is what? The last rotation which you had applied should be undone first. So which is the last rotation that you had applied? Rotation along y-axis by an angle beta. So reverse rotation you have to perform. So reverse rotation is nothing but the negation. So minus of alpha. So here minus, cos of minus alpha and sine of minus alpha you have to take. Sorry, beta. Beta is an angle along which your wherein you are rotating along y-axis. So cos of minus beta and sine of minus beta you have to take care. Similarly, reverse rotation then you have to perform for x-axis, that is the undoing rotation along x-axis. So again here you have to take cos of minus alpha and sine of minus alpha. So this is how you are undoing the two rotations in order. So once you are done with this, now whatever you are supposed to do, what is that? Alignment is already completed, so your object is already rotated now. So what are you supposed to do? You can't leave the object as it is in that position. Get that object back to its original position. So what is that step? Getting back to the original position, forward translation. You can translate in the forward direction to get the object back to its original position by adding the translation factors. So you have to add the translation factor here, so that the last transformation is this forward translation. So that initial translation whatever you had carried out, undo that or get the object back to its original position. So this is the order of transformations that you're supposed to apply. So this is how you perform the rotation about an arbitrary axis. Okay, remember, we don't know what is an angle alpha and what is a value for angle beta. We only know this angle theta along z-axis, that is z-axis rotation. Okay, so alpha and beta value we do not know. Still we perform rotation along x-axis and y-axis. How is it? So there, remember, we just calculate cos of alpha value. We only know the component of the vector along x-axis, component of vector along y-axis and z-axis. So how do we calculate cosine of alpha? By taking those components, that is a by d. Okay, so this is how we calculate, and sine of alpha is b by d. Similarly, cos of beta we calculate, instead of angle alpha and beta value, we calculate cos of beta and sine of beta. So this is how we try to manage this alignment along x-axis and y-axis. Okay, so finally the rotation matrix, after multiplying all these, that rotation matrix only, after multiplying these rotation matrices, we get this composite matrix. So you can see here R11, R12, R13 is nothing but the rotation factors along x-axis. Okay, the first row. Next we have rotation factors along y-axis. Next we have rotation factors along z-axis. And the last row we have all zeros and final value is 1. Remember, we write this rotation matrix by considering the rotation matrix along x, y and z. Okay, so this is the final product here, R, that you get. And finally you can write it something like this: T multiply with the R multiply with the T inverse. Okay, so this is how you can get the, or you can perform the rotation about an arbitrary axis. Okay, so R of angle theta. So remember this. Okay, so we have here the first row. You can see here, this is a rotation factor along x-axis. This is written in the form of a column matrix. So this represents the first element 1, rest 2 0, and the last element is 1. What is the meaning of this? This indicates that this is a rotation factor along x-axis. This is a rotation matrix along y-axis, and last one is a rotation matrix along z-axis. And you can say that this matrix is orthogonal. So what is the meaning of orthogonal matrix? It's nothing but this last element, you take it as 1 there. Okay, so this last element is 1, which indicates that it is a origin. So you consider there a frame where you have the fixed point as origin, and when you have the fixed point as origin, this last value will be equal to 1. Okay, so this is how you write the matrix there. Next we'll move on to the very important concept of quaternions. So what is a quaternion there? It is actually an alternate method for performing three-dimensional rotation. So remember, whenever we perform a three-dimensional rotation, we have to carry out or follow those 5 steps. What are those 5 steps? First is translation, then you perform the rotation along x-axis, then you perform rotation along y-axis, then you perform the actual rotation along z, then you undo those 2 rotation, and then finally perform the forward translation, that is getting object back to its original position. These 5 steps you have to carry out whenever you have to perform 3D rotation about an arbitrary axis. But is there any way to skip those 5 steps and perform this 3D rotation in an easier way? So how can I do that? So I can still do that by without by just skipping those rotations along the three axes or performing those translation and all that. So I can skip that and I can make use of something called as quaternion. So a quaternion is nothing but it's an extension of a complex number, 2D complex number. So what is this a complex number? See, in general I can write a quaternion as an ordered pair consisting of a scalar and a vector. So a quaternion, I can write it as, I'll just represent it as small q. It's nothing but an ordered pair of two components. The first component is scalar component, the second component is a vector component. Now, I can just say here, if I have to perform any rotation now, rotation about any desired axis, keeping origin as a fixed point, that is, if I have to rotate an object by taking origin as a fixed point, and axis can be either x-axis, y-axis or z-axis, anything, that rotation now can be accomplished by setting up a unit quaternion. So what is that unit quaternion? It is the one with the scalar and vector component. So how is that scalar and vector component? The scalar component is given by cosine of angle theta by 2, whereas the vector component is defined by a vector u into sine of angle theta by 2. So this is a vector with both direction and magnitude. So remember, when I have to perform a quaternion, all that I require is only the angle of rotation. That's enough. And now with the help of this angle of rotation, I'll calculate the scalar component and then I'll calculate the vector component. So using these two values, I can now perform the rotation about any given axis by taking fixed point as origin. Now see, if I have to rotate a particular point, okay, about an axis, then I can accomplish this by using a quaternion. So what is the quaternion representation? The quaternion representation is given by this actually P, capital P is nothing but represents a particular point. So how do I represent a point? Point actually has the three components, x component, y component and z component. But instead of representing that in terms of x, y, z, I'll represent this point in the form of a quaternion. So what is that? 0, P. So what is the point P with no scalar component, or you can say there the scalar component of the point is equal to 0, whereas the vector component you take it as small p. Okay, so this is a quaternion representation of any given point. Now rotation of this point is now carried out with the help of a quaternion operation. So what is that quaternion operation? So you can just see, after rotation I'll obtain a new point, that is p dash. How do I obtain that new point after rotation? First I have to consider this old point or original point before rotation, which I need to multiply with the quaternion. So what is a quaternion there? Inverse quaternion. So what is a quaternion? With the one which has a scalar and vector component. So multiply that with the standard quaternion or unit quaternion. Again you can undo that by multiplying that with the quaternion. So this is the inverse quaternion and this is a normal quaternion, unit quaternion. Okay, so what is this inverse of the normal unit quaternion? It is the scalar value will be as it is, but whereas the vector value which has a direction will be taken as negative. So earlier in a positive quaternion we had taken a scalar component and a positive vector v, whereas the inverse quaternion is the same, scalar component is same but the vector direction is negative. Okay, inverse. So s comma v and s comma minus v, and this p is nothing but the original point. This you need to multiply with the inverse quaternion and in turn it has to be multiplied with a positive unit quaternion. This is how we can carry out the rotation. Remember, any point first should be converted into a quaternion. Representation should be in terms of quaternion, and then the standard quaternion, whatever you have to define and multiply that with the point. So this is, by doing this you can rotate any given point or any given object. You can now just see here, finally I can rotate the point. So this will be the representation of the rotated point. So after performing rotation, the representation of this rotated point also is in the form of quaternion. Okay, the new quaternion you get 0, p dash. So the second term in this ordered pair, this
P dash is nothing but represents the rotated point position. Okay, so now this point P dash, whatever you get after performing rotation, can be evaluated something like this by taking a dot product and cross product. Okay, so this is a standard representation for any rotated point. So this S square indicates the scalar part of the point multiplied by the original position, plus V is a vector component multiplied by the original position into vector component, plus 2 into scalar component multiplied by the cross product of vector and the point. Okay, so this is a standard representation where using which you can evaluate this rotated point. Okay, and now finally this vector V also can be taken in this way, which has a magnitude. So scalar component along x-axis is A, along y-axis is B, and along z-axis is C. So finally this matrix I can represent. Okay, so this is the matrix with respect to the rotated point. So this is a 3 cross 3 matrix. Okay, so we can make use of this trigonometric functions, standard trigonometric functions there to simplify this. So this is how I can rotate any given point using quaternion. Quaternion is nothing but extension of complex number, and it is an alternate way to perform the rotation rather than rotating along xy and then z. So this 5 steps of rotation is skipped just by using this quaternion. So remember, quaternion has 2 components, one is scalar and then is vector. So first is any object should be converted into a standard representation of quaternion, and then that should be multiplied with the standard quaternion. So that is how you can perform the rotation about any given axis. So this is the final matrix you can write. So earlier whatever the matrix we got, we can replace that using a standard trigonometric operations, and this is the final matrix that you get, and this represents the final rotation matrix required for performing any rotation of any object by an angle theta about any desired axis. So here you can see no translation, no multiple rotations. So all that is skipped just with the help of a single quaternion.